Greetings and welcome to the World Numismatic News as we now take a look at the top 10 memorial cent varieties for each decade from 1960 all the way to the year 2000. Starting off with the 1990s is the most difficult coin on this list to spot and properly diagnose in the 1996 double-die obverse Lincoln penny, an example of pivoted hub doubling that displays very subtly on the date, with the effect being most pronounced on the 6 and the second 9. You'll also notice that the 1 is slightly misshapen and thicker than it really should be at the base. Not the best known or the most popular variety, and as such it should sell for between $50 and $200 depending on the grade and the die state of the coin. And then in the number 9 position we see what is in my opinion an extremely underrated variety for the era. The 1997 double ear penny is the subject of some discussion as to the true nature of the doubling, but whether or not you believe that this is the result of an offset or tilted hub doubling or even a damaged die, the undeniable result is that the lower portion of Lincoln's ear is doubled directly towards the south, giving the effect of a second earlobe of sorts. There are also several smaller secondary die markers that you can look for in order to confirm the diagnosis, most of which are connected to the coin's die state, so if you don't spot them or if they are not as pronounced, then you may have a coin in an earlier die state instead, so just keep that in mind. One such location is under the lapel of Lincoln's jacket. You will likely spot 2 very small die gouges. Another appears on the reverse of the coin, immediately towards the left of the memorial building's left-facing eave. This will either display as a die chip in a middle die state or develop into a full-on die break in a later die state, as seen here. Conversely, in an earlier die state, this marker might be absent from the coin altogether, as demonstrated towards your right. In 2017, an MS66 red graded coin from PCGS was sold at auction for $240, which is a fairly realistic price for this coin, but it is worth mentioning that we did notice a similar coin selling on eBay in 2018 for around $400 as well. Then moving right along to a very nice double die coin, the 1995 D double die obverse penny from the Denver Mint. In this coin there is clear class 5 or pivoted hub doubling with a slight counterclockwise rotation that displays on all of the letters of In God We Trust. The letters are all doubled towards the right to varying degrees. There is also some very minor doubling on the date as well that is best spotted on the 5 of 1995. Now, interestingly, because the Mint started including the Mint mark on the master hubs during this period, the D is also doubled very slightly towards the southeast, along with the lowest serif as well. During a 2018 auction, a PCGS graded example of this coin with a grade of MS65 red was sold for $312. And then in the number 7 position we find the first of no less than 4 coins on this list that are in fact design varieties. In this case, the 1999 wide AM penny is classified as reverse design variety number 6. You see, the Mint used both wide and close AM designs throughout the 1990s at differing times. During 1999, the proof coins from the San Francisco Mint were meant to use the wide AM design, with the close AM design reserved for circulating coins only. But it seems that a few of the wide AM dies ended up in the mix with the Philadelphia Mint's business strike dies, and the result is a circulating strike coin with the wide AM design in that year. Look here simply for the noticeable gap between the A and the M of America to identify this coin, which can be picked up in pocket change with a bit of luck. In January of 2019, an MS67 red graded coin from PCGS of this description was sold at auction for $1,260. In the number 6 slot, we discover the first and, in fact, the only double-die reverse variety on this list. This is, of course, the 1994 double-die reverse coin. This is a rare case of offset hub doubling on the reverse of the coin. On this penny, the doubling appears in the form of additional columns, or vertical lines, in the last few bays of the memorial building, with especially strong doubling displaying in the last bay that should be doubled almost completely from roof to floor. This coin is actually quite rare and has a somewhat spotty auction record at best, with 2015 seeing a PCGS graded MS65 red example selling for $105, but the auction record was set during 2012 when it was sold for $977.50. And so, at the halfway point, we encounter the first proof variety to be included here in the form of the 1998 Close AM Lincoln Penny, which is technically reverse design variety number 7. As already explained a little earlier, the proof coins for 1998 and 1999 were meant to have reverse design variety number 6, or the wide AM design. But somewhere along the line, a few of the reverse dies were mixed up and close AM dies were processed as proof dies at the San Francisco Mint, leading to this neat little variety hiding itself away in some 1999 and 1998 US Mint proof sets. In this case, the A and the M of America should practically be touching each other at their base, as well as the G of the FG initials having a straight vertical bar with no serif and a wider gap between the F and the foundation of the memorial building. During a 2016 auction, a coin in an NGC slab with a perfect grade of Proof 70 Red Ultra Cameo was sold for $2,233. Heading back to 1995 now, but this time for the 1995 double-die obverse Lincoln Cent variety instead. This is definitely one of the more popular and better known varieties for the entire decade. This is again a very pleasant example of Class 5 doubling, in which the doubling displays on the letters of "In God We Trust", with the doubling effect being more pronounced in the "In God" section due to the nature of the pivoted hub doubling. But where this coin truly shines is on the Liberty, with nearly full doubling clearly seen directly towards the south on nearly all of the letters. At the 2017 Fun Show in Florida, a PCGS graded coin like this at a grade of MS69 red was sold at auction for $5,052. Almost at the end now, and what we have here is arguably the most famous Lincoln Penny proof variety in the series. This is, of course, the 1990 No S variety. Now, as of 1968, all proof coins were struck exclusively at the San Francisco Mint, and as a result, all proof coins were supposed to have the S mint mark as well. But in 1990, a single obverse die meant for the Philadelphia Mint was mistakenly sent to San Francisco instead, where it was processed as a proof die, and defying all odds, at least several hundred proof pennies were struck with no mint mark before the mistake was discovered. Much to the mint's dismay, an unknown number of these coins even managed to escape the mint, placed in 1990 proof sets, one of which was sold at auction during 2014 in a PCGS slab with a grade of proof 69 red deep cameo for the sum of $19,975. So, the final two coins to be discussed are very closely related, as you will soon see, and in the second to last position is the 1992 D Close AM Penny from the Denver Mint. Again, this is a Close AM variety in a year that was meant to be exclusively wide AM, with the Close AM designs only intended to be pressed into service in the following year. But a few of these close AM dies managed to slip into the mix a bit early and, well, here we are. As with the previous two design varieties, look towards the base of the A and the M to all but touch each other. A wider gap between the base of the memorial building and the designer's initials of FG and the sans serif style G as well. An extremely popular and sought after variety that will never want for a qualified buyer. In 2018, an MS65 red graded coin from PCGS was sold at auction for $7,200. And then to conclude, the top variety for the 1990s without any doubt has to be the 1992 close AM penny from the Philadelphia Mint. For the sake of expediency, I won't go over how to identify this coin again, as the diagnostics are literally identical to that of the Denver Mint that was just discussed a moment ago. The Philly Mint coin does appear to be the scarcer of the two, however, a fact which is also reflected in the market prices, as the auction record for this type was set in 2017 when a PCGS graded MS67 red coin was sold for $25,850. The 1988 so-called wide AM variety, which is actually a bit of a misnomer, as all 1988 pennies are supposed to have the wide AM design. The real name should be the reverse design variety number 6 or the flared FG design, but I guess that's not quite as catchy. Still, the difference is so small that the mistake wasn't spotted until long after the coins were in circulation. What actually happened is that the reverse design was sharpened and ever so slightly altered, with the intent of pressing these new reverse dies into service in 1989, but apparently a few of them were used in 1998 as well, and thus we have this variety. So a more accurate description might be the 1988 reverse of 89 variety instead. The key identifier is not the wide AM, which, as I already mentioned, is actually normal, but instead the G of the designer's initials of FG. It should also have a small vertical serif pointing inwards on the G, as opposed to the regular straight bar that appears on the normal coins. I should note that this variety is known for both 1988 and 1988D pennies as well, although the Denver Mint coin is the considerably scarcer of the two. Early on in 2019, an MS64 red graded coin like this from PCGS was sold for $150. In the number 9 position on the list, we'll take a look at the 1984 D double die obverse Lincoln penny. This is actually one of the nicer examples of distorted hub doubling, where the hub's design moved towards the rim of the coin in between hubbings. The primary place of interest for this coin is the date, where you can see almost full doubling on the entire tail of the 9. It should be noted though that this effect would be less dramatic in a later die state, where the 9 might only display doubling towards the tip of the tail and have some additional thickness elsewhere. The 8 should also be doubled towards the southeast, and then the 4 is doubled towards the east. Although on some coins one might be well forgiven for thinking that it looks more like die deterioration instead of the doubling that it actually is. The letters of In God We Trust are also doubled, with most letters displaying additional thickness towards the rim, although the last 3 letters of trust are actually doubled quite noticeably. Again, an earlier die state would be more desirable here. In 2016, an MS64 red graded coin from Anax sold at auction for $188. In the number 8 position, we encounter the 1980 double die obverse coin, which is actually the only known variety for this issue, and a very popular one at that. In this case, what we are looking at is pivoted hub doubling, with some very attractive doubling on the words Liberty. Although all of the letters are doubled, the first 4 or so will likely draw your attention first, with doubling occurring primarily towards the southeast. The date is also doubled in a very distinctive manner, with strong doubling seen on every single number. This is the key identifier for the variety, so make sure that the details match up if you find one. 2016 saw a PCGS graded example with an MS64 red grade sell at auction for $282. Number 7 is a dramatic depiction of the extremely rare Class 8 doubling, where often the die, or sometimes even the very hub itself, is actually tilted during the hubbing process. In this case, it resulted in what appears as an additional earlobe, granting this variety its more commonly known name of the double ear variety. Initial diagnosis for this variety is really quite simple. Just look out for an additional earlobe directly south of the usual position. This is an extremely rare variety that, at least to my knowledge, has never appeared at public auction, so pricing data is limited, but anywhere between $500 and $3,000 would really not be unreasonable at all. Then we have a coin which is, in no uncertain terms, a hot mess. But for a variety specialist, it is an unbelievably fascinating piece. The sheer range of issues and the fact that it may even escape the mint at all is just astounding. Okay, so what you're seeing here is an example of Type 2 counterclash that also suffers from a massive die break on the reverse. This is also its most noticeable feature. A giant pothole or gap now exists, consuming almost half of the words 1 cent. Its effect is also seen on the obverse, as a portion of Lincoln's hair detail, along with the God We portion of In God We Trust, being completely missing, leaving only the G of God in place. The letters I, B, and E of Liberty are doubled towards the south, and the most obvious signs of the counterclash can be seen above the date, where the letters I, B, E, and R of Liberty are impressed in between the date and Lincoln's chin. Another highly sought after variety that, given the right circumstance, can easily fetch $300 to $500 from a specialist collector. Having then reached the halfway point on this list, we also see the first and, well, frankly, the only repunched mint mark to have made the grade, so to speak. Repunched mint marks are, generally speaking, not very common for the 1980s at all, especially when compared to previous decades, but this is, without a doubt, one of the nicer ones that do exist. The secondary impression was placed almost on top of the initial D, leading to slight but very clear doubling towards the north, with some nice notching on the upper serif and clear doubling at the top as well as the bottom. An MS65 red coin like this was sold in 2018, housed in a PCGS slab for $305. And then on to the 1983 double die obverse variety. 1983 actually saw quite a few very nice variety coins. This is the main FS101 type, and it is again an example of Class 5 doubling. Only on this coin, the pivot point was much lower than on the prior example, resulting in some strong doubling on the letters of Liberty and In God We Trust. The rotation point here took place in a clockwise direction, and as a result, the doubling displays towards your left. A lovely example of this variety was sold at auction in 2013, graded PCGS MS65 Red for $440. The second runner-up for this list is also one of the rarest varieties in the entire series as a whole. The seldomly seen double die reverse variety, this time for the 1982 small date penny struck from a newer zinc composition. This is clear offset hub doubling, where the second hubbing shifted completely towards the right, leading to doubling being seen on virtually all of the reverse design elements, most noticeably on the entirety of the motto, the 1 of 1 cent, as well as the vertical portions of the memorial building. The discovery coin for this variety was only found in 2007, nearly 25 years after the initial minting, and to date only 3 to 5 coins have been confirmed, with none having appeared at public auction to date. Price estimates for this coin are placed somewhere in the $1,000 to $5,000 range. 1984 once again saw several very attractive varieties, but the most interesting surely has to be the double die obverse coin, or what is better known as the double ear variety. This is one of the more dramatic double ear varieties that are known. The variety sees extremely clear doubling on Lincoln's ear towards the southwest, and the majority of the design being doubled in much the same manner. Similarly, Lincoln's beard is also doubled in the protected areas underneath his chin. An MS68 red graded coin from PCGS was sold at auction in the 2018 Summer Fun Show for $2,280. And then the best variety for the 1980s just has to be the 1983 double die reverse coin. Much like the similar coin we looked at from 1982, this is again offset hub doubling, but in this case the shift occurred directly north. Extremely strong spread can be seen on literally every design element on the reverse of the coin. The denomination of 1 cent, United States of America, the motto, the building itself, and the designer's initials are all doubled directly towards the south. There's just no mistaking it. A very nice variety that is extremely sought after by all collectors. A very attractive MS68 red graded coin from PCGS was sold at auction during 2017 and managed to raise $7,050 in turn. And as a special added bonus, I'd like to give an honorable mention to just one more coin, the 1982D Transitional Era, struck on a bronze planchet. As I'm sure that you're already aware, 1982 was a transitional year for the US Mint, as they were switching from a mostly copper composition to a zinc coin only coated with a thin layer of copper. The Denver Mint decided that the newest small date variety designs was to be minted exclusively on the newer zinc coins, and took great care to ensure that no older copper planchets were used. But a few bit managed to slip through the proverbial cracks. Today, or well, at least as I'm making this video, there are only 2 such coins known. To identify it, first, make sure that you have a 1982D coin. Then confirm the small date variety was used, and finally, the best way to see if you have a bronze cent or a zinc core one is simply to weigh the coin. The zinc coin will have a weight of 2.5 grams, and the copper or bronze coin should have a weight of around 3 to 3.1 grams. In 2017, an NGC graded coin like this, the Discovery coin actually, with a grade of AU58, was sold at auction for $18,800. The first of several varieties to come to us from 1972. This, and in fact most of the coins listed here today, can be discovered in pocket change or while coin roll hunting, so be sure to keep an eye out for them. This is a double die variety affecting the obverse design of the coin. That's the side with Lincoln's portrait on it. It is a classic Class 1 doubling with a strong counterclockwise rotation. This displays as doubling towards the right of the letters on In God We Trust. Equally nice doubling to the north of the letters of Liberty, especially to the first 5 letters or so, and to a much lesser degree on the date as well. In 2017, an MS66 red graded coin exactly like this one was sold at auction for nearly
$400. As most proof sets from this decade are inexpensive and fairly easy to come by, I decided to include proof varieties from the 1970s on this list as well. The first of these is seen on the 1970S large date proof cent, and while it is not as dramatic as in the previous coin, it is still the result of a rotated hub doubling. This time with a clockwise rotation and a more moderate spread. The letters of "In God We Trust" are all affected, but the W of "We" should have notching towards the top. And the central letters of "Trust" tend to display the doubling the best as well. Due to the nature of the doubling, the elements closer to the rim should display the best, as is the case with the 0 on the date, as well as the first 4 letters of Liberty, where the doubling can be noticed on the bottom half of the letters. Now in 2016, a proofed 67 red cameo graded coin was sold at auction for $211.50, although 2017 supposedly saw a proof 68 example from PCGS sold on eBay for $965. And then the second proof variety comes to us again from the San Francisco Mint in the form of the 1972S proof cent with a moderate doubling on the obverse of the coin. The identifying markers for this variety are virtually identical to that of the previous coin we looked at as well. The letters of Liberty and "In God We Trust" are doubled in exactly the same manner, so for the sake of expediency I won't go over all of that in too much detail again here, except to say that on this coin some moderate doubling can be spotted on the mint mark as well. During December of 2018, a PCGS graded coin like this with a grade of proof 66 red was sold at auction for $1,560. To say the least, 1971 was an especially fruitful year for variety coins, and a prime example of that is this 1971S proof cent as a beautiful example of class 2 doubling. On this coin, the design shifted towards the rim in between hubbings, and as a result, the letters of Liberty are all doubled quite strongly towards the left. Additional but far less severe doubling can also be found in the "In God We" section of "In God We Trust" on this coin. During a 2016 coin auction, a PCGS graded variety coin like this, achieving a grade of proof 67 red with a deep cameo designation, was sold for $2,585. Then we have a coin which is quite deceptively interesting and has multiple hubbing errors to account for. This is the 1970S double die obverse large date over small date proof Lincoln cent. First of all, let's account for the doubling. In this case, actually class 4 doubling that is best expressed in the exaggerated additional thickness that can be seen on the letters of "In God We Trust," but most of all on Liberty. Note how thick the letters are on the variety coin on your right when compared to a normal coin from the same issue on the left. And then there is the date, which suffers from the same symptoms, but in addition to this is actually a small date design, which was then overstamped with a large date design in the second hubbing. In 2018, a proof 68 red cameo graded coin like this from PCGS was sold online for $1,500. And then, on the halfway point for this list, we head back to 1972 for a variety from the Philadelphia Mint. Not the most glamorous one, to be sure, but some very clear doubling can be seen on the letters of "In God We Trust," with the doubling occurring towards the right of the letters. The first letters of Liberty are also doubled, with the L being the most noticeable by far. One particular aspect of this variety is the fact fact that on virtually all coins you can find die chips or small cuds on the rim of the coin next to Liberty. Die state does influence how large they are and even the placement, but it makes for an intriguing market nonetheless. An MS63 red-brown example of this coin from PCGS was sold at auction in 2016 for $881.25. For the final proof variety on this list, we return again to the 1971 S coins to see what is easily one of the rarest proof double dies in the series as a whole, and is a very nice red book listed variety to boot. The doubling here is quite strong on the letters of In God We Trust, with particular emphasis on the In God We section. The doubling should be seen towards the left, with a slight offset towards the rim on this coin as well. Further doubling can be seen on Liberty as well, while there is very little to no real discernible effect on the date for this coin. In 2018, a PCGS graded variety penny of this description was sold at auction with a grade of proof 68 red cameo for the sum of $4,700. And now for the big three of the 1970s, so to speak. In the number 3 position is a 1971 double die obverse Lincoln penny with its Class 2 hub doubling. The doubling is quite strong in this coin as well and is expressed in most design elements, but the God We section of In God We Trust is the best place to look for doubling as indicated here. Furthermore, the letters LIB of Liberty are strongly doubled towards the right, with the E and R typically showing additional thickness on the straight vertical bars. The date is also doubled, but much more subtly so, although some notching should be visible on the 7 and the tail of the number 9 as well. In 2017, an MS66 red graded coin like this from PCGS was sold at auction for $5,640. The first runner-up, as it were, is the 1970 S large date double die obverse Lincoln penny variety, an extremely sought after coin by collectors of both variety coins and Lincoln pennies alike. Extremely strong doubling to most of the obverse elements, especially those closer to the rim due to the Class 1 rotated hub doubling, to the point that it really should be clear to the naked eye. In God We Trust is almost completely doubled towards the left, and Liberty showing strong doubling towards the south for especially the first 4 letters as well. The date too should be very nicely doubled towards the top of the numbers. During the 2017 ANA show held in Denver, a PCGS graded coin like this with a grade of MS65 red was sold at auction for $9,987. And then in the number 1 position is truly one of the strongest double die coins in the series as a whole. The 1972 double die obverse penny needs little introduction to collectors of the series. The rotation in the Class 1 hub doubling was so strong that the letters of In God We Trust are completely separated and doubled in their entirety towards the left due to the clockwise rotation that occurred during the second squeeze in the hubbing process. Similarly, Liberty is also doubled completely towards the south with this coin, although more dramatically so as you move closer towards the rim. And then the date also shows near complete separation of the numbers towards the north for dramatic effect. Unfortunately, this coin is also the target of forgers due to its popularity and value, so a small die gouge just above the D of United on the reverse of the coin serves as a marker to authenticate a genuine example. In 2019, an MS67 Plus red coin graded by PCGS was sold at auction for $14,400. a very attractive repunched mint mark variety from fairly late on in the decade. The 1968 D over D coin is one of the more overt repunched mint marks from this decade, with the primary D placed directly east of the initial punching. The straight bar of that first strike, as well as the inner rounding of the D, can clearly be seen towards the west, with the lower serif even doubled quite nicely to boot. This latter detail should be visible even in the latest of die states or in the most worn down of coins. While the coin remains fairly inexpensive in lower grades, a nice high-grade example with a gem grade of MS66 Red from PCGS was sold at auction in 2019 for $239. Then, in the number 9 position is the first of no less than 4 coins from 1960 on this list. Being a transitional year for the penny, it is not surprising to see multiple varieties, but even so, a tripled die obverse variety is something special. Now, the first thing I should note is that this triple die variety is only found on the proof coin for 1960 and not on the business strike coins. What we are looking at is in fact a large date over small date triple die obverse. The best place to spot this is of course on the date, where the effects are most pronounced on the 9, the 6, and the 0 of 1960. The doubling will be spotted towards the right on all of these numbers, with the tripling expressing itself most towards the left to a much subtler degree. Liberty is also noticeably affected, where the clear effects can be seen towards the west of the letters, especially on the Y. As an added bonus, the coin should also have a very nice die gouge on Lincoln's chin just below the corner of his mouth. Now, in 2017, a Proof 68 red example of this variety coin was sold at auction for the sum of $340, housed in a PCGS holder. Sticking with another proof coin for now, but this time it is the 1963 with a double die reverse variety instead. While the doubling on this coin is visible on most of the reverse design elements, the best place to look for it would be on the letters of America. The first and the last A should be doubled in much the same fashion, where the lower right serif is noticeably notched. The rest of the letters should display similarly as well. Then, in addition to that, the word cent of 1 cent should also be doubled as indicated here, with the N exhibiting the best overall effect. In 2019, a Proof 66 red cameo coin from PCGS was sold for $500. For this 7th position, we head over to 1964 for yet another double die reverse variety. This time, the doubling is considerably more pronounced, and the class 2 doubling can be easily spotted on the letters of United States of America towards the rim of the coin. The word cent of 1 cent also shows the very same effect, with especially the N being quite pronounced in this regard. Now, furthermore, both the left and right foundations of the memorial building are doubled, again towards the rim of the coin. These characteristics all make this coin an excellent example of distorted hub doubling. 2016 saw the auction of just such a variety coin housed in a 30th anniversary PCGS slab with a grade of MS66 red, which sold for $376. After that coin, we feature one from 1966, which, to be completely honest, is rather easy to miss if you aren't paying close enough attention. Due to the pivot point on this coin being relatively low on the design, the date is doubled but may only appear in the form of additional thickness to the numbers on some coins. Inevitably though, the best place to detect the doubling would be on the word trust of In God We Trust. The T should be noticeably notched towards the top right, and then the other letters, such as the U and the S, will also display effects of the doubling towards the southeast, due to the clockwise rotation that occurred during the second hubbing. As mentioned, this can be a somewhat challenging variety coin to locate, and as such, an MS64 red coin from PCGS was sold at auction in 2018 for $650. At the halfway point, we encounter an interesting double variety coin, which is simultaneously a double die obverse as well as a repunched mint mark variety. As a class 2 or design hub doubling, what we see here is the result of a die that was initially produced with a large date design and then completed with a small date hub. This is, as one would assume, noticeable on the date, especially the 0, as that was the main focus and in fact the cause of the redesign. As for the repunched mint mark, the D was initially placed completely north and slightly tilted from the correct position, actually touching the 9 of 1960. It is faint, but should be noticeable on all examples of this variety. During 2018, an MS66 red graded example like this from PCGS was sold at auction for $600. For the number 4 slot, we head over to 1968 and the San Francisco Mint for the 1968S proof coin, where we encounter a double die obverse variety. While doubling can be seen on the letters of In God We Trust, the date is the clearest indicator of this variety. The 6 as well as the 8 of 1968 are usually the clearest as well. Then Liberty is also doubled, mostly towards the left, with this effect detectable on most of the letters. The auction record for this coin stands at $517 for a proof 68 red graded coin from PCGS that sold at the 2015 ANA show in Chicago. As the second runner-up, we placed a 1960 proof coin with a small date over large date design variety. Not much to say about this really, the name pretty much says it all. Look at the date and it becomes very clear immediately that the small date was placed directly over the large date design to produce this variety. In addition to the BER section of Liberty, it is also doubled quite nicely towards the left. In 2014, a proof 68 red graded example of this coin was sold at auction for $1,824. Now, the next coin to be featured is literally the exact opposite of the coin in the number 3 position, in that this time it is a large date over small date variety instead of a small date over large date variety. Again, looking at the date, the small tip of the 6 can almost be seen peeking out from just underneath the larger one. Here, the large date design was used last and imprinted over top the small date to give the impression of more traditional doubling when compared to the previous specimen. Here too, the letters of Liberty are doubled, but this time the last 5 letters are doubled towards the right instead. During 2017, a PCGS graded proof 68 red coin was sold at auction for $840. And then, one of the most renowned and certainly one of the most sought after varieties in the entire Lincoln series is the venerable 1969S double die obverse cent. Somewhat reminiscent of the fabled 1955 double die coin, all of the letters on the obverse are doubled completely, achieving full separation in most cases. In God We Trust, Liberty, as well as the date all show the same effect that should be completely visible to the naked eye. The popularity of this variety cannot be understated, and this is a coin which is all but guaranteed to sell for thousands of dollars in virtually any grade. In 2018, a beautiful MS64 red graded coin in a PCGS slab was sold at auction for $126,000. Well, if you liked this presentation, then feel free to take a look at my other videos covering the other decades for this series as well. Subscribe to WNN and activate notifications with the little bell icon so you'll know when new videos are released. For the World Numismatic News, I am Numisman saying thank you for watching, keep collecting, and of course have a great day.